Part 1. A timeless quote. When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. Marcus Aurelius. In the middle of the 2nd century AD, the philosopher, King Marcus Aurelius wrote these words while on military campaign, amid war, plague, and political unrest. These were not the hollow thoughts of a man in an ivory tower, but the crystallized wisdom of someone shaped by hardship, experience, and profound loss. This seemingly simple quote carries a deeply awakening power. It reminds us that in any situation, glorious or painful, being alive is a privilege, not an entitlement. But in today's world, filled with conflict, disease, misinformation, and relentless speed, does Marcus's message still hold meaning? The answer is yes, more than ever. It needs to be heard, with an awakened heart and a questioning mind. This piece will guide you through appreciating life, exploring its paradoxes, confronting its suffering, and returning to the Stoic essence, uncovering practical, resilient, and compassionate ways to live in our modern age. Part 2. The positive lens, appreciating life. We live in a world where being alive is often assumed as default. Rarely do we wake up and ask, "Am I still alive?" because we take it for granted. But that very assumption causes us to forget that life is a gift, not an absolute right. When Marcus Aurelius emphasizes to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love, he isn't listing obvious facts. He's pointing to profound layers of meaning we often overlook in modern life. To breathe, a biological miracle, and humility before life. Breathing is the first thing we do when born and the last when we die. Yet how often do we pause in a busy day to take a single conscious breath? In meditation, people return to breath to find inner calm. In hospitals, doctors fight for every breath on behalf of patients. During COVID-19, people lined up just to get oxygen. Breath, so simple, so vital, is what keeps you alive. We don't need everything to feel grateful. Sometimes, knowing we're breathing is enough. To think, the privilege of human reason. Marcus didn't say to be right or to win arguments, he said to think. In an age of social media manipulation and crowd behavior, the ability to think independently, to question, to reflect, is a privilege. Thinking allows us to choose our responses. When insulted, you don't have to react. When hurt, you can choose forgiveness. When blamed, you can take responsibility. That's inner freedom. No one can take it unless you surrender it. To enjoy, living fully in each moment. In a world chasing KPIs, deadlines, and expectations, enjoying the present is a radical act. A sunny morning, a hot cup of coffee, your child's laughter, or a longer than usual hug. Each is a miracle, if we pause to feel it. Enjoyment isn't indulgence, it's presence, and that's where real life happens. Part 3. The critical lens. When life nitrogen monoxide longer feels like a privilege. Not everyone wakes up in a peaceful room with sun filtering through the curtains and coffee waiting. In many parts of the world, surviving the night is a miracle, war, and the meaninglessness of life. In Gaza, Ukraine, Syria, and unstable regions of Africa, children grow up to bombs and cries. Mothers don't know where the next meal will come from. Fathers vanish without word. For them, being alive isn't a privilege, but a burden. A string of anxiety, hunger, and dread. When life is prolonged pain, survivors of disasters, accidents, or chronic illness often wake with fear, not gratitude. For someone with depression, each second alive is a battle. For Al's patients, every morning brings a new loss of ability. How can we ask such people to see life as a privilege? Existentialist and absurdist responses. Albert Camus wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus, "Life is absurd. But we can rise above absurdity through conscious action. Knowing life has no preset meaning gives us the freedom to create our own. Even in pain, this complements the Stoic view, not to deny suffering, but to embrace it and respond with humanity. The silence of the universe and the role of humanity in the vast cosmos. Human existence feels tiny. Some feel this renders life meaningless. But within that smallness, choosing to live, to love, to care, is a quiet form of heroism. Gratitude is not an obligation. You can't force someone in personal hell to be grateful. But we can create space for healing. So that one day they might say, I'm still here. I'm still breathing. Maybe that's a start. This critical lens doesn't reject Marcus. It reinforces the idea that life is only a privilege when people are allowed to experience it as such. That requires a more just, compassionate, and patient society. Part 4. A Stoic Reframing. Stoicism, the philosophy Marcus Aurelius followed, doesn't promise happiness or sugarcoat life. It accepts suffering, death, and chaos as intrinsic to the human condition. Amor fati. Love your fate, not just accept it. Love it. Even pain, loss, and disappointment are part of nature. Not perfect, but honest. Marcus and a life of loss. Marcus lost his wife, many children died young, and he ruled through plagues and wars. Yet he didn't complain. He journaled daily to stay composed, to live virtuously even when everything collapsed. Control what can be controlled. Stoics distinguish between what is and isn't within our control. Fame, money, others' opinions, outside our grasp. But our attitude, values, and actions, always ours to own. Acting with rationality and goodwill, Marcus wrote. Every action should come from rational thought and goodwill. Kindness isn't a tactic, it's a principle. Gratitude as a courageous choice. In Stoicism, gratitude isn't for an easy life. It's for the dignity to live rightly even when life is hard. Stoicism doesn't remove pain, it helps you endure it with dignity. In today's chaos, that's real power. Part 5. Modern applications. If you don't live like a philosopher, you'll be lived by your habits, your stress, and other people's expectations. Here are ways to apply Marcus's wisdom. Morning Stoic practice. Wake up and write 3 things you're grateful for. Ask, if today were my last day, how would I live it? Meditate for 5 minutes. I am breathing. I am alive. I can choose. Emotional self-mastery. When angry, don't react. Breathe. Ask, is this worth my peace? When disappointed, write what the experience is teaching you. Simplicity. Cut emotional purchases. Every item you own costs time, space, and focus. Declutter your home to open space in your mind. Mindful speech. Speak less. Think more. Ask questions rather than make assumptions. Say only what is needed, kind, and timely. Nightly reflection. Did I live like the person I aspired to be today? What made me feel grateful? What will I improve tomorrow? Applying Stoicism won't make you cold. It will make you calm, a pillar for yourself and others. Part 6. Conclusion. When you wake up, whether in a luxury apartment, rural cottage, or refugee tent, the fact that you're still here, still breathing, still capable of thought, is extraordinary. Marcus's quote isn't a cliche or spiritual obligation. It's a quiet reminder, to himself and to us, that life is a privilege not to be overlooked. Gratitude doesn't mean surrender. It's how you keep your dignity in the storm. It's how you spot light in thick darkness. It's the will to keep walking even when no one promises you what lies ahead. Today's world is not so different from Marcus's. War, disease, loss, betrayal. But you have an edge. You know someone has walked this path before and left you wisdom to light the way. So tomorrow morning, don't rush, don't numb, just stop. Place your hand on your chest, feel your breath, and say, I am alive. And that's precious enough to start the day. If you can carry that spirit each morning, you're already living like a Stoic, even if you've never heard the word. And if you can pass that spirit to someone else, with a hug, a word, a gesture, you've passed on a light the world desperately needs.